wanted to feature this vehicle and some information about it. This is a very historic vehicle here that came from the gold rush country of California. This is a California Stage Wagon on a mountain wagon gear. And we've got it parked out here in front of the Hansen Wheel and Wagon Shop. It's a beautiful spring day in May. So it's a little bit out of its context as far as the terrain that it was meant to serve and that it worked on. But I guess this wagon is well over 100 years old. It's seeped in history, and we did a conservation effort on it, or a process on it, I should say. So we wanted to preserve what was here and do some conservation of some items, so that this actually is a vehicle out of the pages of history instead of a restored piece or a rebuilt piece. And it was in good enough condition, had enough remnants of its originality left that we were able to maintain and conserve that. And so the new owner of this vehicle is David Sneed. Come on in here, David. We'll introduce you. Congratulations on the purchase and the restoration and all your involvement on this. What I wanted to do in this video today is document what we've discovered and what you are seeing. This is your first time seeing the wagon in person. So what you're seeing on the wagon and then what we discovered. And as we've talked about several times during the process of the conservation of the wagon, that we really didn't change anything on it. In anything that was missing, such as the boot sides or the top post, we had very good information on which direction to go on it, and then what you can see of the finish and such. That's all the original finish. We had very little finish work that we had to redo on anything. So let's just walk around the wagon, David. Well, first of all, what was your first impression when you drove in the yard and you saw your wagon?
First impression is you don't see vehicles in their natural state very much anymore. A lot of people like to repaint them. And for me, as a true historian of these vehicles, I like to preserve the original patina, that hard-earned integrity of the look of the piece. There's things that I really appreciate about a piece like this is that we've been able to retain that hard-earned patina and the time-worn character in this piece. That's not something that gets preserved a lot. And as a result of that, this is history that can be passed on to future generations. And I personally, this is something that really excites me because it instantly puts you back at that period of time in the 1880s when this was rolling over those mountains throughout California, delivering packages, carrying small amounts of freight goods and passengers to those remote mountain camps. And you can almost feel it when you look at the weather on this.
And that's what I like about it. I concur wholly with you. I love the fact that the vehicle can talk to you. And if this was a fully restored piece, we could look at design and we could look at the overall vehicle, but we couldn't really understand the history of the vehicle as well as we can today. So what I like about the patina and what we've done all the way through the process. Actually, Morris, will come on in here. I want to introduce Morris. So Morris is our craftsman who has been doing a lot of the discovery process on the vehicle. So he tore it down, and we went through.
Morris. Appreciate it.
Went through all the processes on it. So, but as Morris and I have talked about a lot on the vehicle, as we're working on it, it kind of has an aura to it, and it tells you a lot. And that's through the whole process of conserving the vehicle. We didn't make decisions. We let the vehicle make the decision. So we're wondering, what to do here, what to do with that, or how this was designed. If we had to rebuild a piece, such as we did replace a reach that was broken from the pressure of the brake, but we had the original piece there. We had all the original hardware. We didn't have to guess at what to do. The vehicle told us what to do, and that's what was nice about the whole process. But as I look around at the vehicle, and as we've worked on the vehicle, we've learned so much about it. And you know, you see the wear and tear that it's received. You see, you know, some minor repairs that it received during its service time, and like I like the fact that, it, you know, when you first saw the vehicle, you don't fully understand it, but as we're working on it, well, this vehicle, you can flip the rear seat up if you got more baggage, because you know a staging contract, you know, you had to, perhaps a U.S. mail contract, you had express contract, and then you had the opportunity to do the passengers, but you also had, you know, might have been carrying a gold bullion, you know, so payroll or whatever. So the versatility of this wagon, this seat's removable, or it flips up, or it has brackets to put side slats on here. So it's pretty cool, the story that it tells just from what is left of the remnants of it that was not altered, and that's quite a treat to have it start exposing that to it. So let's walk around the wagon, David, and you maybe see some things on here that you have questions on or that you're intrigued with.
Well, there's the whole piece I'm intrigued with as far as that goes. But I'll tell you one of the things that as we went through this that you told me as we were working on the boot that really excited me about it is the fact that you were able to use period materials in some of the conservation efforts.
Right.
So these leather side panels here, tell us again about those.
Yeah, so just, you know, it was you know, a luck of timing. This the Santa Barbara Museum had sent in a just recently acquired Henderson mud wagon.
MP
Henderson from Stockton, California, mud wagon. So it comes in for a restoration conservation, and as we're working on it, we're tearing off, you know, some components, and we had just been laying out some boot patterns for your mountain wagon, and we said, hey, you know, that leather we just pulled off that other mud wagon, and we laid the patterns out, and it was perfect. But this was just recently, or no, I should say, the mud wagon that the boots came off of was just recently donated to the museum. They didn't know very much about it. They drop it off here, and we're doing some work on it, and I discovered on the four reaches are branded, and the tongue is branded with Mead Simpson's brand. So this was in the Mead and Edgar Simpson collection out in California, the mud wagon, the MP Henderson that this boot leather came off of, and so that's just another piece of neat history. But we were able to use the historic leather. It had the right fold in it. It's almost it's the same contact point, so we didn't have to alter that any. Had to you know, redesign the profile a bit. The boot straps, we working with my mom's leather shop and another harness shop locally, we were able to find all nice used strapping for the boot strap, and then of course the canvas, we have the heavy, this is like a number 4 duck on the rear boot, and then we have a lighter, like a number 10 duck on the roof of the coach. But yeah, just that's nice to have that original piece. And then Morris, when you were doing the conservation work on the vehicle, numerous times you were out in the wood pile. We found, what was that we had out of a blacksmith shop? We had those pieces of white oak, you know, that were like 2x4 white oak.
They were old fellows laying beside the shop.
And then some old fellows.
Landscape pieces,
yeah.
actually.
Oh wow!
And I cut them into pieces to rebuild the brake blocks. And,
right. Yeah. Then we put in this, and then there were. I know what it was. No, this piece here, David. This piece. This is out of a. This is an new old stock. Oh, might have been an Evener or something, but it was out of a Cincinnati blacksmith shop.
Oh wow!
You know, so very, very much throughout the vehicle, you know, other than the components of the top, many of the other components are artifacts that we repurposed and integrated into the design. So, because we had the advantage of having the better patina, but also the nostalgia maintained of using, you know, artifacts for the restoration. So.
Well, that's, to me, that's one of the most important things that you do here, is that you respect the vehicle and you respect the history that goes with it.
Yeah, I mean, we have obviously have a passion for the history, and to lose history, you can't go back. I mean, you lose it. Like if we remove this striping and this paint, we can never get it back. You can never put the pieces back on.
No, you can repaint it,
Yeah.
but it's not original.
No, and the textures, but also what I like is the design work here. You can see the artist striping brush. See where he started his stripe here.
Yeah.
You see where he ends it here, and it tells you a little bit about the way he striped it, his brush strokes, the placement. I mean, and all the way through the vehicle. You know, a lot of times we examine the blacksmithing on it. You know, how did he do the forming and such?
Hardware on
Right.
this piece. Yes.
And if we alter that, now we've lost those processes. It speaks so much. Look at the brake ratchet on it. How handy this is the stirrup on it. How it's folded over, riveted on.
It's very heavy for what
It is,
some people
for-
would say a small vehicle.
It is very heavy.
But
Yep.
that's indicative of
And-
the kind of terrain it's
And
going to be
this is common on California stage wagons, is to have this leather strap because you can run your foot here, and it's a little more comfortable because you're always constantly braking, and so you can ride your foot here instead of having to get into the stirrup, which is a little, you can get more pressure out here, but this is a little bit more comfortable,
in. Exactly.
and so that's very common.
Let's talk just a little bit about the functionality of a vehicle like this, because it has heavy side springs. You mentioned that earlier about it being on a mountain
gear.
wagon.
Yep.
Yes, gear. And but it's actually goes beyond the mountain wagon.
It is, right. And so when we talk about a mountain gear, we're talking about 3 reaches, longitudinal side springs, and end elliptical springs. And the 3 reaches are these components here, and that is a standard mountain wagon. It could just be a spring wagon.
Right.
But when you step it up into the stage wagon category, you're going to put a stagecoach brake on it. So here we have a beam, a wood beam on a slider. We have extra heavy reaches. These reaches are like, these are hickory, right, Morris?
Yes. Yep.
And just look at it, it's probably almost 2 by 3. That's a very heavy reach for a mountain wagon. So you can see it's set up for having this extra, the extra abuse that it's going to receive.
The eye bolts on these brakes are a little different
Well,
too than most
yeah,
people
and
would see.
so instead of having the wedge type holder on the brake, this has the 4 eye bolts that clamp the brake block on, and that's and it's a pretty husky brake block too, and that's indicative of the California design. So, versus the wagon and carriage trade of the eastern United States, when they're a world apart out in California, there were different designs implemented, and this is another very common California design. If you can come up, pan in here, Leah, with the camera. The way the sill is, the final on the sill here, how it is shaped and it's scooped up and has the little chamfers on it, and the construction of the toe board, footboard, the cutout on it. You didn't see this back east. This was very much a design element of the California-made vehicles, and it's interesting as we work on all the variety of vehicles. You start seeing this stuff. You walk by, and say, "Oh, that's a California-made wagon," And who made this? We found very little maker-type marks on it. Of course, we didn't sandblast anything, so we weren't really digging into it deep. But as far as an evident maker mark, we didn't. I would assume if we were to open the axles up with an abrasion, we'd probably find a mark on the axles, but that really doesn't tell us who the manufacturer was, because they job or deal them supplies in. So we know it came from a museum up in the gold country, or I mean, we don't know as a matter for sure, but this does have a museum accession number on it, or a categorizing number, and it came from that region. So we're expecting it was, it's been in that area for since the duration. So Angels Camp is where we suspect it originated from that collection. So.
It's got a little different situation up here on the front seat too. What's this in the middle here? Let's talk about that.
Oh, yeah, it does. Well, go ahead and jump up in the box there, David. So, go ahead and get over on there. No, that's
driver's
fine.
seat?
Yeah, I was gonna say, this ticket, or a glove box, a ticket box, I have not heard a reference in any writings of what they referred it to, but a coach driver. Go ahead and jump over into the position, David. You'll see, first of all, Leo, from the front here, you'll see this is not centered. This box is shifted over.
Right.
So you're either going to have a driver's rail, or in this position you have a box. So now when you're jostling around down a mountain road and you're using the brake, you can stay in your position. So that box isn't only.
You're also going to eat less than I typically do.
Yeah, right.
It's a little smaller slot.
You probably you probably worked long and hard on the stage trail, but the very important feature in all of the stage coaches, stage wagons, had some type of implementation of a rail or a divider to keep the driver in position.
And one of the things we didn't do, at least at this stage, Doug, that we ought to talk about, is we did not put any of the upholstery that would have typically been here.
And you can see there are trimming marks on the seat, but there were no remnants of the upholstery left. And I like the fact that you can see this. It doesn't, I think it would have been probably a little bit obtrusive to have new upholstery on it.
Right, and that's one of the things that I wanted to have as well. I wanted people to be able to see not just the beauty of the wood, but the functionality of the design, because there's a lot of heavy bracing even in the seat design itself.
Yeah, and the seat has to support the top too. So this front seat is designed with a bracket that comes out and mates up with the top post. So this seat has to support the front half of the top. The rear half is supported off of a post that comes off the body. But that top is very, it's integrated into the body. It's integrated and it's very, very sturdy. Another thing I thought was very unique about this vehicle. Morris, can you go over and work on that tender strap? These are the original straps that were on the wagon. So or I should say buckles. So if we can look at these buckles here, they were on the wagon when it came in, and a lot of people don't recognize why they had these buckles. So I'll just pop this out of here. So this is what the wagon looks like. This when it came in, just like this, with just a buckle hanging there. But we recognize it because we've seen it on so many coaches as a storm apron, driver's apron, lap apron. And so this is set up in such a way, I'll just jump up in the box and demonstrate that. But some stage runs, you're running year round, but some of them run into the night, whatever, and you had an apron. Protect yourself. If you've ever driven, you're not using a lot of calories. There's not a lot of motion other than your arms, and so you have a tendency to chill off. It's not like riding a horse. When you're riding a horse, you're using a lot of muscles, but in the wagon you don't use that much. So it's easy to get get a chill. But you've also got the rain, the snow, and such. So this apron, little leather tabs on it that can be lashed off behind you, and it's going to protect you from the weather. And when you're not using it, roll it down. But you'd be surprised at how warm this is compared to just sitting out in the open, such as that. And so that's just another little story that was told by the wagon. There's where's that other strap? Where it's inside the body? Is it under a seat?
Right under the driver's side here. There's a buckle on the riser.
Okay, yeah, on the side of the riser. So here's a buckle. We left it as it was. I would assume it's for the wrench, the wheel wrench for this vehicle, because this has square directional nuts on it, and every vehicle has a little bit different size nuts, and you need somewhere to retain that. It's about the right size, right position, and we're going to leave that up to Mr. Sneed to find the right wrench for it. But I'm sure in all his travels and
also, while you're here, there's something else taking place here with the tongue that you don't see on everything.
Oh yeah. This is quite unique too on the hitch on this. This pole has a hook on it, and the gear has a loop on it. Well, it also has snubbers under here to retain the body, but just the loop on the front side of the spring is to soften the weight of the pole, and you'd be surprised what that spring does to help hold that pole up. Keeps the horses from getting sore necks, and takes that weight off of it. It's all original hitch equipment. I don't know that this came with the wagon because of the color variance, but it came from the same collection. It's all the appropriate equipment. This is all hand forged hardware throughout. You can see how the forging, you can see the wear on the hooks. See how they folded and did the designs on the straps. And so very fortunate to have this. This is a very key element of the vehicle that had we not had, we would have had to produce it new, and it would have been tough to get it to look this cool. So very fortunate to have that. The other thing underneath are these snubber straps, and the terrain in gold country of California was pretty rough going, and pretty much, you know, jeep trails through the mountains, and those keep the body from getting too out of balance. What am I trying to say? It
controls the return on those springs.
It controls it's a limiting strap is what it is. Thank you. So it limits the movement of the springs when the body, you know, there's quite a bit of motion in this body, and you know, when it's rocking like that, and if it gets going too hard, it's going to come up and it's going to stretch the springs. So that limits the motion on the spring, and it just adds some stability to the suspension on it. The brake system too has a large return spring on the rear, and that's you know, you find that on a lot of thoroughbred vehicles. So this is kind of a crossover between ideas of a thoroughbred vehicle integrated into a sprung vehicle, and it's quite unique to see how they borrowed designs from one to the other.
You know, the fifth wheel, I was noticing the fifth wheel is considerably